know that you know that is Martika, an actress turned singer who began on this day in 1989, a 2-week run at #1 on the U.S. singles chart with that song right there called Toy Soldiers. This day is the 22nd of July, 2025. Welcome to the show. Thank you very much for stopping by, spending some of your time with us. I gotta say, and I don't know why I ever underestimate you or let you surprise me, I suppose, but I was just blown away yesterday when we had some fun tallying up. I've been joking since we started this show way back in 2017, more than 8 years ago now, that we have, and I would throw out an arbitrary number of listeners. I think I started somewhere in the 30s. And anyway, after having some fun with that yesterday, we are now a proud group of 57 listeners and counting. So anytime anyone asks you what radio show you listen to, you just tell them that you are one of the proud 57 who listen to the Mike Farwell Show. We'll go to the phones right away this morning. They're always open to hear from you. Paul is with us. Good morning, Paul.
Morning.
Number three on our list of listeners, Paul from Preston. I'm good. How are you?
Number 3. I'm number 1.
No, Mary is number 1.
I'm not happy today.
Uh-oh.
I'm really not happy. Back in the wintertime.
Settle down.
Late winter, I booked my vacation, a campsite up in the Muskokas, that I was going to come up here and I was going to go ATVing, I was going to go hiking, I was going to do some fishing and everything else.
Wait, is the Premier's meeting interfering with you?
Yeah, well, now I got to stick around my campsite to make sure Carney doesn't come over and try and steal everything.
Come on. What does that even mean? What does that even mean? But, you know, I'm glad you brought up Prime Minister Mark Carney. Not only is he at those meetings with the premiers today in Huntsville, and we're going to check in with our reporter there before 10 this morning, but we're also talking about Prime Minister Carney's assets and all of this concern that's being expressed. What's in the blind trust? We need to know this, that, the other thing. Are we just politicking here? So stick around for that conversation at 11 this morning, unless the Prime Minister steals your stuff from your campsite first. I don't know. That's what Paul's worried about. Jason is also with us on the phone this morning. Good morning, Jason.
Michael, good morning. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I
Good.
just want to do a little PSA for those owners of Hyundai, Santa Fe Sports. There's a number of them. I would check with your dealership if your if your engine was part of the class action lawsuit. My wife, about 6 weeks ago, the car broke down on the 401. Turns out the engine we have was part of this class action lawsuit. So, and it only had 160,000 kilometers on it. And so, you know, obviously people probably would have died for a class action lawsuit to go on. But yes, for anybody, it's between 2016, 2017 and beyond. It's a certain kind of motor. So just, you know, for those who are Hyundai owners, just check with your garage or check with the actual dealership.
Jason, appreciate the public service announcement. Usually those things do come in the mail. Might have been some Canada Post disruptions impacting that, but do pay attention in case you are part of that class action suit about particular engines in those Hyundai vehicles.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
All right, let's get to your Farwell Show 5 for this Tuesday morning. Number 1, the tire deflators have returned. Regional police say some 30 vehicles were targeted in Elmira in the overnight hours Sunday into Monday. The targeted vehicles were all larger SUVs or trucks which had their tires deflated. The suspects left behind notes that said, quote, "We are defending ourselves against climate change, air pollution, and unsafe drivers." Similar vandalism also happened in the region back in 2022. And if I may editorialize for just a moment here, if you are one of those people who thinks deflating the tires on other people's vehicles sends the message about climate change and dangerous driving, you're a loser. I'm sorry. I just want to be that blunt. You're a loser What a ridiculous thing to do. Number 2 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning. Get ready, Guelph. 8 more speed cameras are coming to your city's streets. Guelph currently has 4 cameras in operation, which will move to new locations on August the 1st. That's also when 8 new cameras will be added. In all cases, the cameras will be placed in school zones where the speed limit is lower. Number 3, speed cameras here in the region of Waterloo, and our regional government denying a Freedom of Information request seeking more information about our speed cameras. The Waterloo Region Record filed the request seeking data on dates, times, locations, speeds, and fines for all camera tickets issued in school zones. But the region rejected that request, saying disclosing the information would, quote, interfere with and negatively impact the region's road safety program. Number 4, the U.S. trade war is set to dominate today's meeting between Prime Minister Mark Carney and Canada's premiers. The premiers want to hear more about Carney's plans to respond to U.S. President Donald Trump's August 1st deadline to get a trade deal done. Earlier this month, Trump threatened to impose 35% tariffs on some Canadian goods beginning next month. Carney recently said any trade deal with the United States will likely include some tariffs. Our reporter at the meetings in Huntsville will join us this morning at 9:45. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning. Yes, that is a franchise record for the Toronto Blue Jays. For the first time in its 48-year history, the Blue Jays have won 11 in a row at home.
Rodon kicks and offers. Bichette lofts the ball down the left field line. Fair ball bouncing into the corner. Springer around third. He'll score. Vladdy getting away from Carlos Fabulous. Relay to the plate. Cut off. Head first dive. And the Blue Jays take a 2-1 lead. 2-run double, Bo Bichette. Toronto up in the 5th inning.
Bichette's double giving the Jays a lead they would not relinquish last night in a 4-1 win over the Yankees. Toronto now has a 4-game lead on New York for first place in the American League East. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Tuesday morning, the 22nd of July. We'll take a break, come back with your morning wake-up call. I know we have 57 of you listening. We also have 59 local elected members of councils, local politicians. The wake-up call is for you this morning, and it's coming up on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I may have been away last week, but I wasn't asleep all day, every day. I read some stuff, I listen, still try to pay attention. It's part of doing a job like this. You can never really fully turn things off. And so I found myself somewhat amused by a headline, and just in case it slipped under your radar, I wanted to share it with you this morning. The headline was one that suggested the region of Waterloo was or had filed an appeal at the Ontario Land Tribunal over the City of Kitchener's plans for development on the east side of the city. Think of the Cortland Block Line area over there in and around St. Mary's High School, etc. So City of Kitchener plans to manage its growth, obviously has some plans to build some high-rise towers in that area as an example. And the region steps up and says, hang on a second here. This is going to negatively impact our regional airport. In fact, not only will it perhaps impact the safety of aircraft flying into and out of the airport, but it could even threaten the overall economic viability of the airport itself. Now, though the appeal was filed to the Ontario Land Tribunal by our regional government, it was withdrawn by vote of council in late June. So it might come across as a bit of a nothing burger. It's a non-story, right? Appeal filed and then withdrawn by a vote of council. But here's the thing that I think needs to be emphasized. It doesn't matter if this was the region trying to flex its muscle as the upper level of local government or the City of Kitchener trying to, put a little power play in effect here as one of the lower tier municipal governments? Because remember, we have seven lower tier municipal governments in this region. And then the parent, if you will, the upper level of government, the region, over top of all of that, 2 levels of local government. And so maybe the city of Kitchener, because the provincial government has removed planning authority from the regional level, given it back to the cities and the townships, maybe it's a bit of a power play on the part of Kitchener. I don't know, but I don't care. And I don't want you to care about those details either. It's not something that we need to worry about blame here and who's responsible for having the appeal filed or withdrawn or why it was filed in the first place. The point is, what this demonstrates is that our 2 levels of local government are not on the same page. They're in the same boat, but they're rowing in different directions. And you know what that means, right? It means we just go in a circle, doesn't it? So I think there are some signs in this community that other sectors are starting to figure this out. I would point out to you the charitable sector by way of one example. We used to have a Kitchener-Waterloo Community Foundation and a Cambridge North Dumfries and area Community Foundation. Well, those are gone, and now we have one Waterloo Region Community Foundation. We used to have a United Way of Kitchener, Waterloo, and area, and a United Way of Cambridge and North Dumfries. We no longer have that. We now have a United Way Waterloo Region Communities. You see what the charitable sector has kind of figured out here? How about in hospitals, in healthcare? We no longer have a St. Mary's or a Grand River. Instead, we have a Waterloo Regional Health Network, an amalgamated body brought together with a vision of bringing us that new hospital in Waterloo in the next decade. Think of something we talked about on the show just before I went away last week, and that is the new communications center being led by Waterloo Regional Police, which hopes to include under one roof all of our other emergency service response centers. So you'd have police, fire, paramedics all under one roof. Do you see how these other areas of our community are starting to figure out the value and, frankly, the efficiency of working together? I know I've been beating this drum before, but I'm going to beat it again this morning as loudly as I can. It is time for our local governments, plural, to also come together, amalgamate, and figure out how to work better for the future of the community. Because what we're doing is just going in a circle here. The signs are everywhere that we need to streamline. And I looked back, and it was about 15 years ago, if memory serves, in and around 2010, the last time there was any sort of dedicated, meaningful effort at getting our governments to amalgamate in some fashion. But that was, yet again, the private sector trying to do something from the grassroots level. It didn't work. It is time now, and here is my message to all 59 local elected representatives. My challenge to you, any one of you, is to step up, stick your neck out, and take on this issue that is for the betterment of our community moving forward. The private sector has tried and tried and tried again, only to be continually rebuffed by the public sector, by the politicians themselves. Politicians, it's now up to you. One of you has to step forward, take the lead on this, and move us into the necessary future of one level of local government. It's more efficient. It's going to make it easier to do business here, and it's the way the modern world operates. Somebody from the political class has got to take this on. I issue that challenge to you this morning on our wake-up call. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. My coworker walked into the studio earlier this morning, handed me a copy of this week's Wilmot-Tavistock Gazette newspaper and says, "Thanks for ruining my weekend when I got my paper, Farwell." He says that because he likes me a whole heck of a lot. Front page of the Wilmot-Tavistock Gazette has the headline, 21st Annual Bechtold Childhood Cancer Barbecue raises more than $31,000 so far. That, of course, the Warren Bechtold barbecue in Petersburg. But above the headline is a picture of some schmuck manning the grill. And that schmuck just so happens to be me, because as you know, Warren Bechtold made a donation to the Farwell for Hire fundraising campaign. And in exchange for that donation, I helped out at the barbecue. The burger they caught me flipping was the only burger I flipped that day. But you think, listen, I am framing this front page. I'm going to take it to my grave with me. I made the cover of the Wilmot Tavistock Gazette. I can die and will die a happy man. I promise you that. I had a great chance to chat as well with Galen Simmons, who was the young man who wrote the story. We had lunch together. Just doing some great work in local journalism, keeping our community informed. I'm sorry to my coworker for ruining his weekend when I showed up on the front page of the Gazette, but it was a great day, as you know, in Petersburg. Warren Bechtold has checked in since. There are about $35,000 raised this year. We'll get Warren back on the show in the next little bit to give us an update on how everything went. But it was a great day for a great cause, full of great people, and somehow, some way, this schmuck made the front page of the Wilmot Tavistock Gazette. I'm very proud of that, though, and gosh darn it, I'm keeping me this newspaper. We're going to get you an update from the 570 News Center, and then Canada's federal housing advocate challenges our regional government and its plans to clear the homeless encampment at Weber and Victoria. We'll talk about it coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio. We know that in the city of Kitchener, on land owned by the region of Waterloo, at the corner of Weber and Victoria Streets, there has been an encampment. It's been in place for many years now. It's been the source of some great concern in the community, and the region has announced its intentions by the end of this year to have the folks living at that encampment removed and relocated to other spaces in our community. The reason for the eviction of the encampment, if you will, is to make way for construction of our new transit hub, which is being built a couple of blocks away at King and Victoria. However, not everybody is in line with the region's plans here, including our federal housing advocate, Marie-Josée Houle, who joins the show this morning. Marie, good morning.
Good morning.
What are your concerns with the region of Waterloo's plans to remove residents from this encampment?
Well, while I appreciate that municipalities like the region of Waterloo are on the front lines of homelessness crisis and responses to encampments, and they don't necessarily have the powers and the financial resources to address all the systemic factors contributing to homelessness, municipal governments, like all orders of government, have obligations to respect, protect, and fulfill the rights, the human rights, and to adopt a human rights-based approach to encampments as per the reports and the research that I've done over the last few years. And the way this is being handled does not do that. And so I wrote an open letter to the regional council on July 16th to express my concerns about the plan to evict the homeless encampment to build this new transit hub. And so I'm hoping to have a good dialogue with them, because the people that are living there, they have legal rights.
As far as I understand from the region's intentions for this site, the plan is to redirect all of these folks to services, shelter, etc. So where does that miss the human rights-based approach that you're talking about?
Well, I'm really glad you asked that question, because this is, the human right to housing in Canada is new, as is my position. I was appointed in 2022. And so it's been a great opportunity to have that conversation. What does this mean? And what does the human right to housing mean when it's applied? Because other than just these nice words or something to aspire to, so really a human rights-based approach, what it means is meaningfully engaging with the people who are going to be affected. So in this case, it's meaningfully engaging with people living in encampments and those who support them on an ongoing basis. And the problem with this situation is that the decision's already been made. And then, the municipality is claiming to have talked to these people and that they have a team that works with them. But these people have no agency over their future, and they've never been consulted, and certainly not at every phase. So, I think a lot of opportunities are missed, the opportunities to truly understand why are people choosing that site? Why are they in encampments? Why have other options failed them? Because the reality is it's not great being in an encampment. It is, people are very unsafe in so many ways, but this is the choice that they have made because most of the time this choice is better than any other option that's been offered to them. So, and in this case too, it's why this site and why not have live in a tent in another site? So these questions need to be answered, first of all, to truly understand what's happening with people, and then what their needs are, and then how to best address their needs. Encampments are not the solution. I've never said that. Adequate housing is the solution, where people can finally feel safe, finally have something to call their own, and that they can finally get out of survival mode to address all of the issues that have led to them being in encampment to begin with. But until that happens, people still need to have agency in their lives. But when the decision's been made, and then you go consult them, well, that's not an act of good faith.
How do we balance the needs of these folks in encampments that you so well describe here, Marie? And that's where you're putting the focus, and I understand why. How do we balance that, though, with the need, in the case of the region of Waterloo, to build this important infrastructure? Can we allow an encampment to hold us back from moving forward in those ways?
Well, this is the question of the day, and we're seeing this all over the place. The need for, for an agenda, a political agenda, one that's, for innovation, and so we're going to plow over everyone's rights. We're seeing that already at the federal level around Indigenous rights. The drive for innovation or the drive for change does not mean that rights get plowed through. And so that, first of all, needs to be addressed. And is there another, maybe, from what I understand about this hub, I think just from your opening is that it's not this particular address where the hub is going to be, but it's used for the staging of the construction. So are there other options? So are there, other than, destroying or plowing through the rights of people living in encampments and meaningfully engaging with them, to have them, find other options, and that they choose what their options are, or are able to tell what their needs are, and making assumptions about what people's needs are. Are there other options around the construction itself while all of this is figured out? Because right now it's being tied up in the courts. And litigation is expensive. It takes time. No one knows what the outcome of the litigation is going to be. So that's where, again, the meaningful engagement piece is really, really important, because it saves time and it does save money. And it leads to real solutions in the end, rather than a top-down approach. And this is why I've entered the conversation.
Your letter is dated July the 16th, which is a week ago tomorrow. Has the letter opened any meaningful dialogue between yourself and the region of Waterloo at this point?
Well, we did receive a response, and from the lawyer, I believe. Actually, nope. Sorry about that. Nope, that's a response to another letter that I wrote. My scary letters. We haven't received anything yet. But it is. I'm hoping just to clear the air, just to clear, to clarify what is required in order to meet, the human rights of people, and to really suggest a better path forward. Because, like I said, this is going to the courts. It's going to take up time. It's going to take up a lot of money and a lot of resources. I mean, meaningful engagement with people is also resource intensive, but the result will be a whole lot better.
Marie, we appreciate your time on the show today. Thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. Take care, everyone.
Marie-Josée Houle is our federal housing advocate. Her open letter dated July the 16th to Regional Chair Karen Redmond and our regional government expressing concerns about the plan to evict the homeless encampment to build a new transit hub in the city of Kitchener. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, to Huntsville we go, and our senior reporter on scene at Deerhurst Resort, where the premiers will today meet with Prime Minister Carney. What will the tone of those meetings take? We'll talk about it coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Provincial leaders from across Canada are preparing for a meeting later this morning with Prime Minister Mark Carney. But in the meantime, they're getting stuff done. Premiers of Ontario, Alberta, and Saskatchewan have signed a memorandum of understanding calling for the construction of new pipelines using Ontario steel. Mark McAllister is a senior journalist with City News Toronto. He is our reporter in Huntsville, where these meetings are taking place, and he joins us now to talk more about them. And Mark, I saw you yesterday in the scrum listening to Ontario Premier Doug Ford address the media as those meetings opened at Deerhurst Resort. How would you characterize the tone on that first day of meetings yesterday between the premiers?
I think going into yesterday, there was a lot of positivity. Obviously, they're going to get down to business today, but the general sense yesterday was a feeling of we've all got to make sure that we're on the same page when it comes to responding to what's happening with U.S. tariffs and trade negotiations on a national level. They want to make sure, all the premiers and territorial leaders, they want to make sure that they're at the table, that they're making sure that they're being heard by the Prime Minister and the various people that are involved in negotiations, because they have a play. And obviously everyone from a provincial level knows what they want from this, and it's going to affect the industries directly. And they're looking forward to sitting down today and making sure that that happens and bring forward that Team Canada approach that we've heard about many times.
Premier Ford talked a bit about that dinner that the premiers were all allowed to have together last night, let their hair down, in the words of the premier. And as you said, Mark, you kind of get down to business today with Prime Minister Carney now being in these meetings. What do you expect the focus of these meetings to be?
I think first and foremost, some of the premiers are looking to get some sort of update on how things are going with those negotiations. Obviously, we know that August 1st deadline is looming at this point before we get those 35% tariffs on the rest of Canadian goods, and so they're hoping that they can come up with something before then. So this is the chance for the premiers to hear out what the Prime Minister has to say about how that's going and make sure that they've got some skin in the game, offer their opinions before those final few days come forward.
What have you been hearing, if anything, from Indigenous leaders following yesterday's meetings with the premiers?
Yeah, that was key. Obviously, that wasn't initially on the agenda, but I think it was important for Premier Ford to bring forward some Indigenous leaders on his personal invite to say, okay, let's bring you to the table. There's been lots of discussion about how they haven't been part of the consultations going forward on major infrastructure projects, specifically in Ontario in the north, when it comes to mining in the Ring of Fire area, pipelines might extend from Alberta. Indigenous leaders want to be a part of that conversation first and foremost. There's obviously quite a few First Nations that are directly opposed from the get-go, but the chiefs that we spoke to yesterday said, at least let's have those conversations. We can tell you what our concerns are directly, but until this point, you haven't heard from us. We haven't had the chance to sit down with you. And we know from this point forward, after yesterday's meeting, they've been invited to yet another meeting of the First Ministers. That will be coming sometime soon, so at least that conversation continues.
It seems to me, Mark, at least from where I'm sitting, that the honeymoon, if you will, is certainly not over for Prime Minister Carney. I even heard Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe speaking favorably about the direction the Prime Minister is moving. And you don't often hear that from Western provinces. Is there a sense of energy around these premiers with the leadership right now of Prime Minister Carney?
I think so. Again, when you hear from Premier Ford, he's glowing every time he speaks about Prime Minister Carney. He says, you know what, anytime I pick up the phone, he'll call me back right away. And he appreciates that ability to go back and forth and be a part of those conversations and be heard. You know that there was some tension with Prime Minister Trudeau and not having that back and forth. So I think the premiers at this point are appreciative that they can be a part of the conversation, that they can invite the Prime Minister to come into these meetings, and that he'll make some time to be able to pop in and make sure that everybody understands what's going on. So it is still the honeymoon period at this point. We'll see when that August 1st deadline comes and goes, whether or not everybody is on one page.
Just from a higher level, Mark, and the media perspective, what's it like on the ground in Huntsville? We know that when world leaders met a month or two ago in Alberta, there were some protests leading up to those leaders of the world's leading economies. What's it like in Huntsville right now? Is there high security? Are there protests around?
Yeah, there is high security. Obviously, there's tons of OPP on the streets in and around the highways surrounding Deerhurst Resort, which is where it's taking place. When you come onto the property, you know that security is high because these provincial leaders are here. In terms of protests, we did hear that not too far from here that there were some health advocates that wanted to come forward and bring up concerns on other things that they were hoping that the premiers would have the opportunity to address over the course of a couple of days, but they haven't been visible on site, probably because of that security. Aside from that, it's basically what the premiers have been sharing with us.
Keep up the good work, Mark. Appreciate you making time for our show today. Thanks for this.
Not a problem.
Mark McAllister is a senior journalist with City News Toronto. He is our reporter in Huntsville. Tough gig this week for Mark, eh? Yeah, you go to Deerhurst Resort and cover the meetings, and the rest of us will be here schlepping away, doing some good work for us and the City News brand in Huntsville, where the premiers will later this morning get their audience with Prime Minister Mark Carney. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Having just spoken with our reporter Mark McAllister in Huntsville, where premiers from across the country will meet today, later this morning, in fact, with Prime Minister Mark Carney, good chance for me to remind you that we will be talking about the Prime Minister and his blind trust on the show this morning at 11. The question is this. I know there is a great deal of concern, a number of questions being asked around the assets in that trust and how much we should know about it. We know that Prime Minister Carney has gone through all of the ethics screenings and things have been cleared, and at least from the political standpoint, all is above board, but questions continue to be asked. My question to you is whether or not this is genuine concern or perhaps just politicking, trying to punch some holes into the still honeymoon-filled suit of armor that Prime Minister Carney wears. So we'll be having that conversation in just over 1 hour's time after the 11 o'clock news this morning. One more quick note, too, on something that happened locally. We mentioned during the Farwell Show 5. I don't know what, I guess with the notes left behind by the suspects in the tire deflating of dozens of vehicles in Elmira. You know, we're against these gas-guzzling vehicles because of their impact on the climate and how dangerous the drivers of them are, et cetera. I guess that's your point. What a strange way, though, to try to get it across. I have zero time for somebody vandalizing somebody else's personal property in an effort to make a point about climate change. Completely wrong-headed from where I'm sitting. Let's get you to the 570 News Center for an update, and then Donald Trump sends aid Ukraine's way. Is he getting tired of Vladimir Putin? Let's talk about it on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio. You have likely learned already that U.S. President Donald Trump is laying out a plan to put some pressure on Russia to end its war in Ukraine. Included in this plan is funneling weapons to Kyiv and threatening economic punishment on Moscow if peace is not reached in 50 days. It's perhaps a bit of a change, maybe not of heart, but of strategy on the part of U.S. President Donald Trump. What is it all about? Andrew Basso is a professor of political science at Wilfrid Laurier University and a fellow at the Balsley School of International Affairs, joins us to talk more about it. Andrew, good morning.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
It's great to get you on the show to get some perspective on this, because I have to think that you're somewhat surprised at the president's move here.
I am, and I think you can pretty much chalk it up to three major changes that have happened in the last few weeks. The first one, and the one that's sort of banding about the news space now, is Trump may finally be waking up and realizing you cannot make a deal with an authoritarian like Putin. There are just institutional frameworks that constrain Putin that he's created, and the same ones constrain Trump as well. In a democracy, you are accountable to the people ultimately, and Trump wants the war to end. Fair enough. In an authoritarian system, or at least a semi-authoritarian system like Russia, you're sort of fearful of the people ultimately, and Putin needs the war to drag on. Trump and his advisors may finally be waking up and realizing that. So that's shift number one. Shift number two, this is a major one, and this has to do with an internal fight in the Republican Party itself. There's been a major tectonic shift in the America First movement, that you've had a fight and a constant tension within America First between the isolationists and the hegemons. And the isolationists, these are the Marjorie Taylor Greenes and the Pete Hegseths of the world. The hegemons, these are the Lindsey Grahams, and these are the Keith Kellogg's. And this idea of hegemon, I think isolationist is pretty easy to understand, but hegemon, I'd be a bad political scientist if I didn't say something about it. It comes from Greek, and it means a leader or a ruler or a guide. So to have hegemony over something means to dominate an entire system or an entity. I think what's happened here is that the hegemons, those America Firsters who think that America should just go it alone internationally, they've won the fight against the isolationists who think America should retreat from the international order that it benefits from. I'd like you to consider Israel and Iran. The isolationists, they would have bowed out and let it happen. And Marjorie Taylor Greene has been vocal in her opposition to what Trump has done. She did not think that America should participate in any action against Iran. Yet, it did. And I think it's because the hegemons, they've won this internal fight. And it seems like these hegemon crowds, with Lindsey Graham spearheading an initiative in the Senate to give Trump more power to give help to Ukraine, they're really winning this internal fight. And that Lindsey Graham initiative, he has sort of an unheard of act of bipartisanship happening right now with 85 Senate co-sponsors on a bill that would impose secondary sanctions or secondary tariffs against Russia-aligned countries. So, that's number two. That's an internal one. But then the third one, some would see this as a major foreign policy win. Some would see this as warmongering and leading to an arms race. I tend to lean towards this is a major foreign policy win, and honestly, Trump should be commended for it. And those words did just leave my mouth. In terms of NATO spending, this is a huge win for Donald Trump, that he wanted NATO allies to increase their spending, and he got it. That NATO allies, they've agreed to spend 5% of their GDP on defense. Now, in reality, this is only a 1.5% increase from the 2% benchmark previously, because allies are mandated now to spend 3.5% on core defense-related activities, planes and missiles and tanks and stuff like that, and then 1.5% on security-related activities, including fighting fires and Coast Guard. This is a major win for Trump, who has basically single-handedly sparked European and Canadian interest in spending on defense. Maybe Trump recognizes that we live in a time of coyotes who persistently nip at our values, or maybe this is coming from some other motivation. I'm unsure. Nobody can be sure. But those three changes, this idea that he's woken up and smelled the roses on Putin, there's a shift in America first, and now there's increased NATO spending. All of a sudden, it makes U.S. support towards Ukraine more viable. And just to show you the power of leadership, and I'm a big believer that public opinion, you don't wait around for it to sort of change politics. You manufacture public opinion changes. There was a poll released a few days ago by Echelon Insights, and they asked two questions. The first one was, do you support or oppose continuing to give weapons to Ukraine? And the second one was, do you support or oppose Donald Trump's decision to continue giving weapons to Ukraine? The first one, it had Republicans only supporting weapons to Ukraine, this neutral question, at 12% net positive. The second one was 46% net positive. So Trump can manufacture some changes here, and I think all of this is coalescing into some major developments.
I couldn't agree more on the significance of these developments, and I can't help but wonder, Andrew, what this means from the Russian side and Vladimir Putin. And I'd love to get your thoughts on that if you can stick around through the commercial break.
Sure can.
Terrific. Appreciate that. Andrew Basso is a professor of political science at Wilfrid Laurier University and also a fellow at the Balsley School of International Affairs. We continue the conversation around these significant developments in the war in Ukraine as we continue the Mike Farwell Show this morning, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. There has undoubtedly been a change in the strategic direction of the United States towards the war between Russia and Ukraine. President Donald Trump sending weapons to Kyiv, threatening economic punishment on Moscow if peace isn't reached within the next couple of months. Andrew Basso is a professor of political science at Wilfrid Laurier University and a fellow at the Balsley School of International Affairs, helping us gain some perspective on these changes in the war. And Andrew, I had asked before the break what this means from the Russian side of things. I mean, where does this leave Vladimir Putin?
Yeah, let's actually talk about these secondary tariffs that Trump is proposing here and that Lindsey Graham is pushing for. It's actually a dual-track mechanism right now. So what this sort of Trump's 180 is all about is that he's hoping that European allies in NATO, they're going to send what they have now in their defense stockpiles, and then the U.S. is going to backfill their stocks when they can. So essentially, this new idea is that Europe will buy U.S. weapons to replace the U.S. weapons that they donate to Ukraine. This is really what NATO is good at. It's good at winning a logistics war, and if you win that, you stand a chance. I'll remind that Article 5, the Collective Defense Pact, it's only been triggered once by the United States, and that was in 2001 in the aftermath of 9/11. But the roles here were reversed. Europe then was backfilling U.S. stockpiles early and throughout the global war on terror. So that's essentially the plan that Trump is trying to turn American industry into being the major face of defense industry in the world. We'll see how that plays out. In terms of these secondary tariffs, though, what these are all about is not necessarily placing more direct tariffs on Russia. Bilateral trade between the U.S. and Russia is almost non-existent in global comparison. And you can thank a lot of the reductions in bilateral and multilateral trade with Russia, the reductions in those because of all of the sanctions against Russia and its products. Now, this is a bit of a tricky situation because this is sort of simple economics. So here's how these secondary tariffs work. You close your markets to Russian products through sanctions, and that means the cost of Russian products, they decrease on the global markets. Once that happens, they become cheaper and more attractive to prospective purchasers like China and India and Brazil and South Africa. So the sanctions regime is being skirted around by these other actors who are sort of Russia-aligned, who are indirectly funding Russia's war on Ukraine by buying Russian products. What these secondary sanctions are designed to do, these are secondary tariffs, I guess. They're designed to punish these secondary countries and their exports to the U.S. and elsewhere. That if you buy Russian products for your country domestically, and then you export products to the United States, whether they're Russian oil in origin or not, then those exports to the United States, they're going to go up by potentially 100%, even 500% has been a number bandied about. So the secondary tariffs, they're designed to punish these secondary countries and their exports to the U.S. So by doing that, you can cripple a country's economy, and actually the global economy, to be honest with you. This is a bit of a nuclear or an economic nuclear weapon we're talking about. You can increase the price of Chinese products exported to the U.S. because China is importing Russian oil. So you are disincentivizing China from buying Russian oil. And if that happened, that would totally undermine Russia's war effort. That it's the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia obviously, India, China, and South Africa that are making Russia's war effort possible. And, we should also throw Hungary in there as well. There's a bit of a loophole to all of this because Europe gets a lot of its energy from Russia, much to the chagrin of the United States still, and it's been a problem for the last 20 years at least. It seems like the Lindsey Graham bill and the way Trump is conceptualizing these secondary tariffs is that there's going to be a loophole, that if you provide weapons to Ukraine, then you're fine, and you will not have these secondary tariffs applied to you. This all sounds really powerful, and it sounds great, but I will rely on social media and that wonderful acronym that has emerged, TACO, Trump always chickens out. He's bandying about this 50-day deadline, and if he chickens out and backs away from these secondary tariffs, then all that's going to do is give permission to Vladimir Putin to continue prosecuting the war as he sees fit. This is why I say it's a bit of a nuclear weapon, that you have to provide a credible economic deterrence to Russia's aggression. And if you don't follow through on it, then Russia's just going to keep on going. So we're sort of in mutual assured destruction territory on the economy with this. It could be a brilliant foreign policy move with this coupling of sanctions and tariffs. It could also be an incredible failure. We're about to find out, I suppose.
Never a dull moment, that is for sure. And always appreciate you giving your time on the show to help put this in perspective for us. Andrew, thanks very much for being here this morning.
Anytime, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Andrew Basso is a professor of political science at Wilfrid Laurier University and a fellow at the Balsley School of International Affairs. It's a 180 by Trump and mutually assured economic destruction. We'll see how this all plays out. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Grateful to be able to rely on experts like Andrew Basso from Wilfrid Laurier University to give us, from here in our community, a perspective on global affairs. And what an interesting time it is globally when you consider the President of the United States, his economic warfare that is being waged almost the world round, and this change in direction when dealing with the war in Ukraine. And a person that many had described as an ally, a friend, somebody that President Trump looked up to, that being Vladimir Putin, now on the wrong end of President Trump's friendship scale, if you will, because there are economic sanctions, there is aid in the form of weapons being delivered to Kyiv to support Ukraine in that war, all bad signals for Vladimir Putin in Russia. Let's go to the phones, hear from you. Jersey Bill is with us. Good morning, Billy.
Yes, happy to be listener number 12.
Number 12 on the list of 57, my friend.
Yes, and just once again, it just seems since World War II, we the United States in its leadership role has really made some really bad mistakes along the way. Even when Korea was the status quo ante, at least, but Vietnam and all these engagements in the Middle East. I mean, the efforts were underfunded essentially and undermanned, or didn't have the right strategic the strategic effort behind it. And it just, it's sad to see. And I just talking to a Ukrainian woman the other day, I apologize. I said, why didn't we just declare a no-fly zone? And maybe all the way back in 2014, when the initial aggression was made. But if it was a no-fly zone, then all this talk of as Trump says, blowing up the beautiful buildings and the apartment houses, it wouldn't happen. Of course, it would have been a risk of getting us more involved in the war, but we are anyway. This incremental kind of thing, and not funding it properly, that just doesn't make any sense to me, and it's to our detriment in the long run. I hope that there's been a change, but really, this has just been a disaster from beginning to end.
Billy, appreciate the perspective. Our friend Jersey Bill, who hails originally from New Jersey and served with the U.S. military, now makes his home here in our region, always has an interesting perspective on U.S. politics, and in this case, the change in direction on the war in Ukraine. You may have heard Billy make reference to him being listener number 12. We had some fun yesterday with our list of listeners, and some way, somehow, filled that list up to 57. If you want to be part of the list, by all means, drop an email, mike@570news.com. Happy to add your name beside a number. You will always be a name first, but we like to keep track so we can brag about how many listeners we have on the show. 57 and counting, or when you call in, by all means, get your name added to that list. And then remember the number, and then we'll continue as we grow together on this show and continue our conversations. We'll have Billy, listener number 12, joining from time to time, and maybe Francis, listener number 36, as another example. All right, I've got to get you to the 570 News Center for an update. Before 11, the event I think that was made just for me, that's right, it's all about me in Elmira this weekend, and also on the weekend, this celebration in Cambridge. We'll tell you about it coming up on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. An important celebration coming up on Saturday at Soper Park in Cambridge. It is a presentation of Rhythm and Blues Cambridge, and the founder of that, Rhythm and Blues Cambridge, is a good friend of our program, Marjorie Knight. Marjorie, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks for having us on.
Always a pleasure to have you on, my friend, especially to talk about the good things that Rhythm and Blues is involved with, and that means this Saturday, Soper Park, Emancipation Day Celebration. Tell us all about it.
Yeah. Well, this is our third annual Emancipation Day, and we're so excited to have it at Soper Park again. That is just the perfect park to have it in. So for everybody who knows, Emancipation Day was proclaimed, the Slavery Abolition Act of 1833 came into effect in 1834 in the so-called British Empire, of which, of course, Canada was a part of. And we celebrate every year. Now, the actual day is the 1st of August, but, we don't want to clash with Caravana and other big festivals. And we want people to be able to come and enjoy ours. We're having lots of stuff. We have live music, we have bands, we have dancers, we have Guyanese fit chick teaching you all the latest moves. We have a guest band, Reggae Diction. We have the Human Rights Band. We have Resolution. I mean, it's fabulous. Food is going to be wonderful. You're going to want to come and try this food. There's something for everyone here. We also will be bringing back our History Corner again. And one of the things that we're doing this year is we're expanding how we look at history. And so we will have Amy Smoke from Land Back and a team from other members of the indigenous community who are going to talk to us about the history of indigenous folk and black folk in our History Corner. And I think that's going to be a really interesting discussion for many. And of course, we have our Children's Corner. There will be drumming circles, there will be games, there will be book reading and learning for our kids too. So it's a big family affair. Everyone is welcome. Come on and chill with us on Saturday.
You mentioned, Marjorie, this is the third annual Emancipation Day celebration in Cambridge. And Rhythm and Blues Cambridge, if memory serves, isn't that much older as an organization itself. Why was Rhythm and Blues started?
Rhythm and Blues started mainly because, we looked around and we know there's a lot of black and racialized communities in Cambridge, but you don't see them because when it comes to days of celebration, everybody went to Toronto because there was a disconnect around belonging and building a community. And we decided, man, this had to stop. We needed to do celebration here. We needed to bring our community together here. We needed to build this community here. And that has been one of our main aims, is to develop community here where we can come together and celebrate. Not good enough just to turn up to support when something goes wrong, which we do and we will continue to do. But it's important that we can come and celebrate together with the larger community also, but it's important that we can come together and celebrate.
Why is it important to celebrate Emancipation Day in this way, Marjorie?
It is important because, when you stop and think, 1834 isn't really that far away from us. And so, I can say that my great-grandmother was a child of a slave, and how far we have come since then. Not far enough, but we've come far, and there have been some remarkable people who have done remarkable things in building nations and countries and communities. And we need to celebrate that, and we need to show our youth that we are standing on the shoulders of greatness and that everything is possible. And we need to celebrate and show it and show the way forward. Progress. It's a wonderful thing.
Looking forward to another great event on Saturday, Marjorie, and appreciate all the work you do with Rhythm and Blues and beyond. Thank you very much for being here this morning.
Thank you. I hope we see you. Bring your lawn chair. We're going to have a good time.
Look forward to it for sure. Thank you so much, Marjorie.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Marjorie Knight is the founder of Rhythm and Blues Cambridge. Its third annual Emancipation Day celebration happens this Saturday. That's the 26th at Soper Park in Cambridge. Everything gets underway at 1. It runs right through 7 in the evening. And it is free, by the way. My favorite F word, F-R-E-E, free, open to everyone. And you will find live music, you will find performers, a drum circle, that history corner that Marjorie explained, food, a BIPOC vendors market, and more. This is at 120 Shade Street in Cambridge, again, Soper Park, beautiful part of the city. The third annual Emancipation Day celebration. Voices of Freedom this Saturday from 1 until 7 at Soper Park, presented by Rhythm and Blues Cambridge. All right, we're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, it is the Farwell Report. Something new we're trying out on the show. We'll sprinkle it in here and there and find out if it sticks, sharing some headlines from across the country, around the world, including the birthday party that happened this past weekend in Brantford. And how much faith do Canadians have in the relationship between their federal and provincial governments? Plus, Donald Trump wants what names changed and why? All of that and more coming up in your Farwell Report next on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Little something we like to call the Farwell Report. Some stories you might not get in your typical newscast, including this one about how we as Canadians feel about the relationship between our federal and provincial governments. According to new research, significantly more of us believe that the feds and the provincial governments are working well together. That's compared to a similar survey from a year ago. National survey results, which were unveiled yesterday, show 52% of respondents agree that the federal and provincial governments are working very well or somewhat well together, which is an increase of 13 percentage points from 2024. The Environics Institute believes we are reacting to the recent series of premiers' meetings that have displayed the relative unity of provincial leaders in response to Donald Trump's tariff and annexation threats. Only in 2 provinces did a plurality of people say the 2 levels of government were not working well together. Any guesses? That's right, Quebec and Alberta, the 2 provinces who threatened to leave Canada at every opportunity. Most recently, of course, Alberta in that category. But some interesting research to share as, of course, our premiers and prime minister meet today in Huntsville. You may have heard about the latest Truth social media post by U.S. President Donald Trump, this one coming Sunday morning, during which he said that the Washington Commanders Football Club should return to their original name. And this post on social media instructed the owners of the Washington Commanders to, quote, all caps, get it done. U.S. President Trump also mentioning the Cleveland Guardians, who changed their name and mascot from the Cleveland Indians. And Donald Trump insisted that our great Indian people in the United States, in massive numbers, want this to happen. Now, that wasn't enough. On Sunday morning, after he had his coffee, U.S. President Donald Trump followed up with a separate post on Sunday afternoon and said, if they don't change the name of the Washington Commanders football team back to the original Washington Redskins and get rid of the ridiculous moniker of Washington Commanders, he won't make a deal for them to build a new stadium in Washington. He says, listen, his statement blew up his Truth Social platform. So there you have it. The Washington Commanders should revert to the Redskins. The Cleveland Guardians should revert to the Cleveland Indians. We had these folks on the show a couple of years ago when this was just getting underway. It's called Friends for Kindness, and about 800 people attended the annual now Friends for Kindness unbirthday party at Mohawk Park in Brantford last Saturday. Nicole Callender has been on this show before, telling us all about it. She's the founder and president of Friends for Kindness. And she started this way back in 2018 when her daughter, Caitlin, was about to turn 18. And she was feeling kind of left out, didn't think she was going to reach the same milestones that some of her friends had. She didn't have as many friends. So what Nicole did was post on social media to friends and other connections on Facebook, hey, would you put something in the mail for Caitlin as her birthday approaches, starting in February before her birthday in July? Let's show her some love through Canada Post. And boy, oh boy, did it ever work. 6,000 birthday cards ended up coming in from 34 countries, every province in Canada, and every state. And this has grown year over year, and now 800 people are attending the annual unbirthday party at Mohawk Park in Brantford. Keep your eyes on this 8-year-old kid from Guelph, well on her way now to becoming a chess master. 8 years old, Navika Ranganathan won the Canadian Youth Chess Championship in the under-8 category when she competed earlier this month at a tournament in British Columbia. She played 7 games, won 5, drew 2. Now, her age group featured at least 20 competitors. She was in top spot from beginning to end. And with the win, Navika has now earned the right to compete at the World Chess Championships in her age group in Kazakhstan in the months ahead. Congratulations. 8 years old from Guelph, already a chess protege. And finally, I wouldn't want to let you go on today's edition of the Farwell Report without letting you know about this grisly discovery in Wellington County. A black bear spotted in residential backyards in the village of Erin, or Erin, if you're so inclined. Now, except for a few bird feeders being knocked over, no other damage has been reported to police, so it barely warrants a mention. Still, there can be a risk if the bear exhibits threatening or aggressive behavior, so we want you to be aware of this. We want you to know. And as much as I hate to be the bearer of bad news, this bear did, have teeth, so it was not a gummy bear. Your Farwell Report for this Tuesday, the 22nd of July. Take a break. When we come back, I swear, I know I'm making it all about me, but this had to be an event designed just for me in Elmira this weekend, right? We'll tell you about it coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I got my TLWR newsletter delivered to my inbox yesterday morning, as I do every Monday. And it claimed that it was a Mike Farwell approved event coming to Elmira this weekend. You don't argue with the TLWR newsletter, do you? I certainly don't. For the love of butter tarts, the festival is returning to Elmira this Saturday, the 26th. Jackie Pasutka is the organizer. And as usual, Jackie, you had me at butter tarts, but please do tell us what is happening at the festival this year.
So our third annual For the Love of Butter Tarts Festival is coming up on July 26th from 10 to 4 at the Woolwich Memorial Center in Elmira. At this festival, we're going to have over 20 butter tart bakers from all over Ontario. And this year, we're actually adding in another element. So we're adding in some hot sauce vendors for those people that kind of like the sweet and spicy. We're going to have a big vendor marketplace, balloon artists for the kids, lots of fun selfie stations, and then live music from our guy Tyler Fry, and then some food trucks outside. It's just going to be a really awesome time.
You mentioned it's the third annual, and I remember when we first talked about this. I mean, can you put your finger on it, Jackie? What is it about butter tarts that draws such a crowd?
They really do. It's kind of funny. I think that I think that it's maybe nostalgic for people, like maybe their grandmothers or grandfathers or whomever, baked butter tarts, over the years, and the smell of the butter tart, and of course it's just so like ooey gooey goodness.
That's right.
How do you not love butter tarts?
Well, that's just it. And if those grandparents really loved us, they would have made us butter tarts without any of those nasty raisins in them. That would have been great.
I know how you feel about your raisins.
They do not belong in my butter tarts. Keep them out of the way. I just want the goo. That's all I want is the goo. All right. You mentioned Saturday the 26th, starting at 10, Woolwich Memorial Center in Elmira. Is there an admission charge to get in?
Yes. So it's $6 admission. If you bring a non-perishable food item, you'll get $1 off of admission. That's going to be going to the Woolwich Community Services. And then I also wanted to mention that we're also going to be donating $1 from every admission to Groves Memorial Hospital Foundation this year.
Excellent.
Which is out in Fergus.
I know it very well. Why the charitable component? Why do you do it that way?
I just really think that giving back to the community is just a great thing to do. It makes you feel good. It helps people out, and I think more people need to do it.
Absolutely. And just one more reason for us to come out and enjoy the Butter Tart and Hot Sauce Festival on July the 26th. Jackie,
you got it.
Thanks for doing this, and best of luck at the festival again this year.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me.
Jackie Pusutka is the organizer of the annual For Love of Butter Tarts Festival. You had me at Butter Tarts. Lord knows I do love them, as long as you keep those nasty, wasty, failed grapes, a.k.a. raisins, out of my Butter Tarts. Saturday, 10 till 4 in Elmira, the For Love of Butter Tarts Festival. All right, time to get you an update from the 570 News Center. And then let's talk about that blind trust that Prime Minister Carney holds. How much do we need to know about what's inside of it? And is the opposition perhaps barking up the wrong tree in making noise about it? Let's talk about money, shall we? Perhaps not the money that we have, but the money that others have, and perhaps we're envious of them having. But even more specifically, let's talk about how much money the Prime Minister has, shall we? Tim Powers is the chair of Summa Strategies and managing director of Abacus Data, also a former advisor to conservative political leaders. He writes a political column for the Hill Times. Good morning, Tim.
Mike, how are you doing today? Are you counting all your money? Are you going through all your investments right now?
I started counting my money just before the show today, and then the show started and I was done. Like, it doesn't take a lot of zeros, but they're at the front, if you know what I mean.
Listen, Mike, I thought all permanent radio hosts in Canada were raking in the millions, like in the U.S. You're telling me that's not true? I'm shocked.
I hate to break it to you, and you know better, Powers. I know you know better. But what do we know, sir, about how much money Prime Minister Carney has?
Well, we don't know how much precisely that he has. We do know he has significant holdings. Why do we know that? Because he, as is required as a public office holder, has declared to the Federal Ethics Commissioner what his holdings are in terms of the breadth and depth of them, not the amount of them, and how he will avoid putting himself in a conflictual position. So he set up what's called a blind trust. I believe it's one blind trust, there may be more, and a conflict screen. This is, Paul Martin did this, John Chrétien did this. So we don't know the precise amount. I think, Mike, if I remember correctly, we're told he has holdings in 536 different companies through the various investments that he has made. That may be a lot. It may not be a lot. I mean, it depends if you look at your own holdings, and if you're in funds that are diversified, you may have 30 or 40, so it drives the number up. But that's what we know. We don't know a global amount, but we do know there is significant reach. The opposition is arguing, and I'll shut up after this, that there, could be upwards of 100 conflicts he would have to manage because of those holdings and the influence government decisions may make on some of the companies that he owns to a certain degree.
You made the point, though, Tim, that Mark Carney is not the first prime minister to have undergone this, right? So the screening and the placement of assets into a blind trust, certainly important for the leader to do to obviously avoid those conflicts.
Yeah, and it's pretty standard practice.
Sure.
Look, it's not just politicians. If I'm sure a lot of your listeners do volunteer work, and sometimes when you work with volunteer organizations. You declare if there's a conflict because you know Johnny, who is a vendor for the organization, and you're a good friend, and you don't want to be part of the decision. So there's transparency. It's a pretty common thing from government all the way across, that people who have potential conflicts and investments or relationships that may influence those conflicts declare them.
Isn't it also common, though, then, that in politics, the opposition will seize on these opportunities, shall we say, to create a narrative around their political opponent?
Well, yeah, and look, in this era of liberal government, I think your listeners will remember, Mike, because I know you covered it, Bill Morneau, right?
Sure.
The first finance minister that Justin Trudeau had. Mr. Morneau, wealthy, self-made individual, had a number of holdings. The Conservatives immediately went after his credibility for being wealthy. And the frame they took forward was, well, look, to be a liberal, you have to be wealthy, self-interested elite. And they used to talk about his chateau in France. Even when the Conservatives were in government, they talked about Michael Ignatieff's chateau in France. So you can't have a chateau in France, Mike. If you do, you're done. But the point being, for Conservatives on Liberals, the brand that seems to connect with Canadians is that Liberals are, when they are mad at Liberals, is they're self-motivated, they're elite, and they're out of touch. That worked really well for Pierre Poilievre against Justin Trudeau, because he went after Justin Trudeau for being a trust fund kid and the like. It just kind of forgets about the fact that, there have been wealthy Conservatives who have been in office and then subject to the same screens. But it's typical in politics to try and diminish somebody for their apparent wealth and achievements.
And you have argued, Tim, in a recent column at the Hill Times, that this is unhelpful. Why?
Well, I think, look, whether your success has come and manifested itself through making some money, or it's come in other places, you don't want to discourage people who've had success and experience in different places from going into politics. Politics shouldn't be the lowest rung of professional offering, and you can only come into it if you've not had success elsewhere. I think when serious people who've done well in life look at this and they see how their success is weaponized against them, they're like, why do I want this hassle? And I think, Mike, in the era in which we live, we can't be discouraging anybody whether they have had success elsewhere or not. So that's my issue with it. And look, Mr. Chrétien and Mr. Mulroney are great examples, two arguably of Canada's stronger prime ministers who came from wealth and success that they built themselves, but conscious of the firestorms they would get about it. I mean, Mr. Mulroney was branded as the boy from Baie-Comeau, and Mr. Chrétien was the kid from Shawinigan. But in their day, people didn't have the same issue with those who had success in the business world being in public office.
And just to play devil's advocate here, Tim, I mean, surely whether you want to follow the narrative the opposition is working to create here around Prime Minister Carney, couldn't he, if he wanted to get wealthier, do a much better job of that not being Prime Minister?
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
You're not going in. I think there's this narrative that's there that it's default, and politicians have not helped themselves with this because there have been some dirty politicians. We haven't had them to the same degree in Canada as we've had elsewhere. But, you're going to public office because, you're going to rig everything for you, and then when you come out, you're going to get a big job. Well, I would say, Mike, if you canvassed a lot of the former MPs in the area in which your radio station covers, you'd find out that they're not really that wealthy, and they didn't make that much from their life after politics, but it's a popular narrative. And Mark Carney could be doing other things, making more money and not having 1/10 of the hassles that he will have now because he's put his hand up for public office.
I'll have to ask you to excuse me now, Tim. I have to go back to counting my money, but appreciate your time as always.
All right, put the pennies in those RBC plastic wraps, Mike.
Exactly.
They're still good for that.
That's where they're going for sure. Thanks, Tim.
All right, take care, buddy. Bye.
Tim Powers is the chair of Summa Strategies, managing director of Abacus Data, and a former advisor, I will emphasize this if you don't mind, to conservative political leaders. But Tim argues in a recent column at the Hill Times that this is all very unhelpful when it comes to the noise that we create around the assets that the Prime Minister is holding. He's gone through the screening. The work up front has been done. Why do we want to punish a guy or pound on a guy for his apparent wealth? There's no denying the wealth. We don't know exactly the number in the bank account, but Mark Carney is going to be okay. Prime Minister or not, he's going to be just fine financially. But is this unhelpful? Is this dissuading other people who may have done well in other walks of life from entering the political arena? Why would we want to dissuade good people? Even are there good wealthy people? I think there might be. That's a talking point. Maybe you want to talk about it. Let us know your thoughts on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Whether your success has come and manifested itself through making some money or it's come in other places, you don't want to discourage people who've had success and experience in different places from going into politics. Politics shouldn't be the lowest rung of professional offering, and you can only come into it if you've not had success elsewhere.
Tim Powers is a political columnist who writes for the Hill Times. He says all of this nonsense around Prime Minister Carney's assets is standard politicking and a shame. And Tim acknowledges in the column, and we get it, this sort of noise around somebody's wealth when they're in politics is standard stuff and speaks to the regard with which we hold politicians in these days, which is a lower and lower regard, isn't it? All painted with the same brush. I think what we're hoping to achieve through a conversation like this today is maybe a higher level view and some sober second thought. Let's all pretend we're senators. If you want to talk about a place where money is being whizzed away, holy Hannah. Nonetheless, I always love to hear from you on the show. 519-570-2545, star 570 and 1-800-570-5715. Lisa, good morning.
Hey, Mike. Number 58? Am I number 58?
That one's been claimed, but you can be 59.
Perfect.
Okay, Lisa, 59, welcome aboard.
59.
Thank you.
Alrighty. So for myself, and I'm sure for a lot of other people, it's not so much that Carney has had financial success. It's that how can it be a blind trust if he knew whatever was going into it when he put it into a blind trust? It really doesn't make a lot of sense to me, like rationally speaking, unless someone else has taken control and changed enough of it so that his investments are totally different than they were when he put them into the blind trust. He still knows what's there, and he still knows if he changes the policy, how that may influence the profit one of those companies in the blind trust is making.
So you don't have a lot of faith in our elected representatives?
Well, I don't think that the system, if this is truly the way it is, it doesn't make sense to me because, okay, he's saying I'm just not going to look at that, but he knows everything that's there that went into it. It doesn't make sense that it doesn't seem like it's a blind trust, I guess is what I'm saying, because like unless someone has taken that, say for instance, if he's got $1 million invested into EV batteries, unless the person that has control of that blind trust takes that investment and moves it into wind power, say. Like he still knows that $1 million is invested in EV batteries. I
get you. He knows where the money went originally, for sure.
Right.
Okay.
And on the note of your Mike's Musings or whatever you were calling it,
yeah.
That last little segment was almost unbearable, Mike.
Oh, Lisa, me love you, number 59. Well done. Thank you.
Have a good day.
You
Okay.
too. Bye-bye. The Farwell Report. We're test piloting this one. It might stick around in and around 10:45. And I was telling a story about bear sightings in Erin, and so Lisa had to add her own bear pun. I was caught off guard for a moment. Then I got it. Good job by you, Lisa. Good ears. Paul, good morning.
Would you like me to send you a picture of a bear where I am? I do have some on my phone.
Would that be a selfie?
No.
Okay.
No, just a little ways down the trail here where there was a bear visiting. Anyways, back to the topic in hand. One of the comments was that some politicians have made it pretty obvious that there are crooked politicians out there. And I think when all is said and done, we're going to find that Carney is one of those. When you take into consideration when he was his involvement with the British government, Carney made a major investment in a jet fuel manufacturer for a so-called low-emissions jet fuel. And then he goes to the British government and says that you should force any airlines flying into Heathrow to use this low emissions fuel on the basis that it would clean up the environment, or was it on the basis that it would increase his bottom line?
But he wasn't the prime minister there, right?
No, he wasn't the prime minister. What was he? What was that position he had? I don't know, some strange, high-ranking financial position.
I get it. Thank you, Paul. Your point is made. I just, gosh darn it, I get it. I am as cynical as the next person, but 343 now. I got to get that new number right. But members of federal parliament, and 59 local representatives, and we can go on with the 120 plus provincial representatives. They're not all crooked, This is what I hope we can take away from our conversation, which continues. Mike, hang on, and there's a phone line open for you if you want to weigh in on the blind trust and all of the noise around it. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Are we turning people off politics by making so much noise around Prime Minister Carney's blind trust? Let's go back to the phones. Mike has been waiting. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Mike, it's Mike from Elmira. What number did you assign me for your list?
You are number 23, my friend.
Oh, that's cool. All right. Two things. One, I can't believe your previous caller said something nice about a liberal. Wow. I was like, shock.
Did he, though?
Well, because he didn't say anything bad about Mark Carney.
Okay, fair enough.
He praised something positive, which we need a lot more of if we're going to actually listen to each other from opposite sides. So that's pretty cool. As far as the hype about wealth, I'd rather have somebody who has had success in managing wealth and business, running a country or a department, than someone who fails constantly and can't do anything else. It's all talk. So that really matters for competency. I'd rather have a competent person in leadership, wouldn't you?
I absolutely would. And I've thought about this a lot, too, when we talk about why can't we run governments more like businesses? And now we've got somebody with a pretty strong business background leading a government, but we want to try to create this narrative that he's not qualified and should not be running it. And we run ourselves in circles here, I think.
And I don't think the money shaming thing works. It works for people who don't have much. They'll believe it, hook, line, and sinker. And so it's an easy, cheap way to, hit below the line for politicians. I think where we're going to lose politicians, the potentially good politicians, is all the shaming and the really bad rhetoric and politicking that's happening right now. Like just the bullying, political bullying and shaming. I think that's going to wipe out people, not so much the money shaming.
I think that's a real concern for sure, and that's why I wanted to have the conversation today. Appreciate you contributing, number 23. Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Mike from Elmira, 23 on our list of now 59 listeners. This show's going to the stratosphere, baby. It's the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. A former volunteer firefighter from nearby Drumbo started feeling unwell. Couldn't get a proper diagnosis here in Canada, or at least nothing that led him on the path to getting well again. And now he finds himself in Mexico receiving treatment. That is where we catch up with Jason Hibbs this morning. Jason, good morning.
Good morning. Hello from Mexico. How's Canada doing?
You know what? It's doing pretty good for July the 22nd. Don't ask me in January, please.
Yeah, no kidding. That's right. Exactly.
I just told a little bit of the story as I introduced you, Jason, but I always like to hear it straight from you. When you started to feel unwell, can you take us through your health journey?
For sure. No problem at all. I'm very happy to share the story. So back in about 2018, 2019, I was bit by ticks in Kitchener. I had 5 that were stuck in me. 4 up in my scalp, 1 stuck in my leg, and multiple other ticks on me. I had to get some buddies at work to help pull some of them off in the bathroom and stuff. We didn't really think anything was going to happen because we were unaware of the situation with the Lyme disease, the co-infections that the ticks can carry. So I just let it go, and months later, ended up in the hospital with a fever, lost control of my arms and legs. I regained a little bit of control after some time in the hospital. They did MRIs, spinal taps, EMGs. I've had those continuous for about 6 years now. No diagnosis in Canada, but I always go back to those ticks. So I got tested in Germany by a German doctor with my blood, and sure enough, it came back positive for Lyme disease and 3 co-infections. So all ticks can carry co-infections. It's a gamble when you get bit by them. Some have them, some don't. And I ended up with 3 of really, really severe ones, plus the Lyme disease. And the doctors in Canada don't believe any of it. I brought those results to my neurologist. They just shook their head and said that it was fake and fraudulent and made up to take my money.
That was their belief of the diagnosis you got in Germany?
That's correct. And then they went back to doing more spinal taps, more EMGs, more CT scans, more MRIs, and they just keep coming back clear. So I finally got to the point where my one neurologist seen me not that long ago, and she said, we're going to have to restart the testing all over again. So I don't want to be left to rot in my wheelchair for another 6 years.
And this is the thing that I find so incredulous, Jason. You talk about being in a wheelchair, and yet you can't get anybody, any of your Canadian medical team to diagnose Lyme disease? Like they don't have any diagnosis for whatever it is that's put you in a wheelchair?
They don't. They just keep saying, well, we think it's going to be this or we think it's going to be that. They've went through almost every neurological disease in the book that they know. Then they just do another MRI or a spinal tap and they go, okay, we're going to find it this time. And then they call me back and they go, well, it's all clear. Or they say, we think we see something and we're going to do another one. And then it comes back negative again.
So how did you ultimately end up in Mexico? What took you there?
So I was doing a lot of research, and there is a couple like private Canadian doctors. They've talked a little bit about certain things. They cannot prefer Canadian residents out of country. They're not allowed to do that. But I did a lot of research with family and friends and some other people, and we started looking into other options besides Canada. And sure enough, Mexico came up. A few other clinics in the U.S. and over in Germany came up as well. But Mexico was pretty feasible. So we started the fundraising with the fire department that I was on, and lots of friends and family helped out. I'm very thankful for that. And we got the funds, and now I'm here now. This is my 2nd week of treatment down here.
What is the treatment like?
The treatment is very intense. They take a different angle than what our medical system would do. I'm not knocking our doctors. We've got great doctors in Canada, great nurses. We've got a fantastic medical system set up. They just have trouble recognizing Lyme disease. There's not enough awareness for the level where you would get tested, and then the treatment level. They're so far behind compared to down here. The treatment's very intense. It's something that they would probably never allow in Canada.
How long do you have to be there for?
I have to be here for 6 weeks. That's the plan right now. But we'll wait and see what happens. I'm already starting to get a little bit of improvements. And since arriving here, the first day down here, I also met another lovely couple from Ontario as well. Their name is Tim and Krista. And Tim has Lyme disease like me as well. and he's going through the treatments. It's really amazing that a couple of Canadians can come to a different country and then meet up not knowing each other, and they're going through the exact same thing. He had the same stuff with his doctors as well. They're actually standing here in the room with me right now. We go out for dinner with them, and it's kind of a great support down here. It's awesome.
Certainly glad to hear that support exists there in Mexico. But I've got to ask, Jason, I mean, how does all of this make you feel about our healthcare system here in Ontario?
The healthcare system in Ontario for Lyme disease, and I know there's other diseases out there. There's lots of problems with other people. My heart goes out to all of them. But for Lyme disease, for the testing and for the treatment that we get in Ontario, it lacks majorly. They lack funding. They lack knowledge. The doctors down here, it's amazing to see the difference. They are very, very knowledgeable about this disease. And I'm learning so much every single day from the doctors and nurses down here about my symptoms that I've brought up to doctors in Canada before, and they just look at me like I have two heads. They don't know what to think. But down here they have answers, and what they're doing already is starting to improve my symptoms.
What is it that the treatment in Mexico will be able to provide for you? Will you get the use of your arms and legs back, for example?
I'm hoping I do. Every person is different, but at this clinic, they just do Lyme disease here. It's called Lyme Mexico, and almost everybody that's come here, they've either got anywhere between usually 35% to 100% better. So something will happen. But right now, it's very unfortunate. I can't walk at all. Like, I can take my body weight if someone pulls me up out of the wheelchair, but I wobble like a bowling pin. And they've had people just like me down here that were in wheelchairs. And after the treatment, about a year later, they went back to work. And we were actually watching some videos down here. There was one lady from the U.S., and she was doing squats in the gym. And there's another woman that was just like me, and she was in a wheelchair. She couldn't even talk because it took her voice. And she's actually a framer now. She's framing houses and chatting away. She's married, got kids now, and it's amazing what they're doing.
You know, it's not lost on me, Jason, that in your role as a volunteer firefighter in Drumbo, you were protecting or even saving lives, and now you're on the other end of it where you're working on your own life here.
That's correct. It's a very hard situation coming from that background where I always want to help other people. It's hard to let other people help me, but I've learned over the past couple of years that I just have to let go of that. And my fire department family, my immediate family, my close friends, they've all pulled together, right? So it's really amazing to see all that support come together.
You mentioned how your firefighting team and the community helped raise the money to get you to Mexico for this very expensive treatment, almost $40,000 US. That part is over with because there you are in Mexico. But why did you decide to go public with your story?
It's to basically what I want to do. I want to create awareness for other Canadians because I do not want other people to lose their lives like how I lost my life. I lost 6 years of my life because of this, which could be a little bit longer. It could be 7 or 8 years by the time I'm completely better. But I'm hoping for 100%, going to stay positive and push for that. But I want to make sure that other Canadians don't end up in the same shoes that I am. Because I got Tim standing here right beside me. You guys can say hi to him too after we're done if you want. But he's in the same situation. And the medical system has done the same thing to him as it's done to me. And he's in the right spot. He's going to get better. But I want to make sure that other Canadians know the danger about ticks and when they bite you. It can come from a deer tick. It can come from a dog tick, a wood tick. It doesn't matter what type of tick it is. It basically all the ticks can carry co-infections, and the co-infections can be worse than the Lyme disease that the deer ticks carry.
Certainly wish you the very best in your treatment and recovery, Jason, and thank you very much for joining the show today.
No problem. Thank you for having us. We appreciate that a lot.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
You as well. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Jason Hibbs, a former volunteer firefighter from Drumbo, just west of our region here in Oxford County, for 6 years has been battling what he is convinced is Lyme disease, diagnosed in Germany, but doctors here said, no, somebody was just trying to take your money. Couldn't get any progress towards recovery after repeated tests with our medical system here in Ontario, now finds himself in Mexico, where it's a $38,000 U.S. treatment that he's into the second week of, could take as long as 6, but has shown positive results. When I hear about Lyme disease, I have very limited understanding other than what I was able to learn, coincidentally, through the Farwell for Hire campaign one year. I helped out a woman, Marg was her name. I believe it was Listowel, somewhere outside of the region, not too far, but I went to do some work at her place. She, too, suffers from Lyme disease, talked to me about it while I did the work at her place, and I learned as much as one can while listening to the stories, but debilitating is a great word for it. And who'd have thunk from the bite of a tick that you can end up in a situation like Jason is in? And certainly based on this story, it sounds like we've got some work to do in our diagnosis and treatment of Lyme disease here in Ontario. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, have you met Hespeler Jack? Not to be confused with our buddy Hespeler Johnny here on the show, but if you haven't met Hespeler Jack yet, we'll tell you all about him coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I'm sure you're familiar with the children's nursery rhyme about little Jack Horner who sat in the corner. Well, there is a Jack on the corner of Adam and Rife Streets in Cambridge. He's been dubbed Hespeler Jack. He only appeared recently, but he's become quite the sensation in the neighborhood. And in our efforts to learn more about this mysterious icon, we're joined by Andrew Yablonsky of Hespeler, who I think, Andrew, would it be fair to describe you as the unofficial caretaker of Hespeler Jack?
Oh, gosh, I'm not sure I want that sort of
too much pressure. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair. What can you tell us about him?
Well, Hespeler Jack kind of sprung up out of nowhere one night. We've definitely heard rumblings about where he came from, whether it's some mischievous teens or perhaps a neighbor who is just sick and tired of looking at him. But he popped up overnight, and people have just started placing items on him as if he was some sort of little worship statue, but because of it, it's sort of anthropomorphized him. It's given him, character and attitude that the people of Hespeler here have really latched onto.
It seems to be that way. Would you describe Jack as a positive influence on the neighborhood?
Absolutely. Not just for like the weird parasocial things about people thinking about what they have that would look fun on him or what they could do to draw attention to local causes, but also for the fact that intersection can be a little wild with a bike path and a crossing where people just, drive full speed around. It's causing people to slow down, take a look, see what Jack's wearing, and I think it's doing a lot of good for that corner.
You took it upon yourself to ensure, because these sorts of statues, and Jack is just a short little guy standing about 2 feet, but they have become attractions in different neighborhoods around the world. So you made sure that Hespeler Jack ended up on Google Maps. Absolutely. And I mean, to tell all the listeners out there, it was quite easy to get stuff on Google Maps these days. But we put them on there. It took maybe a day for approval, and people have been flooding it with 5-star reviews and lots of rock puns. When did you first discover Jack? Like, when did he show up?
Oh, gosh. That was, we're looking at a week and a half, 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
I believe it was on 2 weeks to the day, actually. I was out with the dog, and I saw the statue there, and some teens running away with some bright-colored clothes. So my wife and I had figured that just might be the reason he's there. Since then, we've heard some other stuff. But the next morning, somebody put on some sunglasses. The next day, somebody put on a Ernie's Roadhouse hat. The next day, he had a Canada flag. The next day, he had a hockey stick. And it just keeps going and going. Right now, he's got a couple of little granite friends sticking around next to him. And it just keeps growing.
Really? So it's like a little family of Jacks now? Or Jills, I suppose.
Yeah. We're growing our own little statue garden in this defunct yield station.
I love the Ernie's Roadhouse hat, because while in Hespeler, you might as well add something from Ernie's, right?
Absolutely. There's definitely talks about getting him some Hespeler Shamrocks merchandise soon.
excellent idea as well. What was your first reaction when you saw him, Andrew?
So my wife and I like to consider ourselves decent travelers, and we made a stop a couple of years ago out to Brussels in Belgium, and they have the must-see statue of Brussels is this little guy taking a wee. His name is Mannequin Piss, and it became so popular that they had to create a little girl and a dog doing the same thing spread out throughout the city, and it almost becomes a little scavenger hunt. He's about the same height. He may be a little bit taller, maybe 2 feet high, and he's on a very tiny intersection, a couple of carts wide at most. And he's a sensation. Everyone loves him, and it's so silly because he's so tiny. And when I saw him, it just reminded me of that trip and having a good time and bringing people together because it's silly, but it works.
Have you contributed in any way to Jack's attire since he first appeared a week and a half ago?
I have not contributed anything to his attire. I am sitting on some excess landscape blocks, so Jack might be a little taller in the coming weeks.
Are you surprised at all that he's lasted this long?
I am. Part of me putting on Google Maps was in the hopes that the city would recognize him as something fun and quirky and wouldn't take him down the next trash day. So far, it's worked. But yes, I am surprised that he hasn't run away yet.
Right, of course, because nobody would do anything to harm Jack. It just might be that he gets bored with the neighborhood and goes to bring sunshine to a different part of Cambridge.
That could be.
Could be, yeah. It's a fascinating story. Where did there's a social media, like a Facebook group where he really began to gain some notoriety. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the little district of Hespeler, the north of the 401 here, we have a good couple of Facebook groups, but the local 1 hour Hespeler is where people, post about what's going on in the neighborhood. And somebody had posted that, he had showed up, but I started posting a Thursday morning fit check, just letting everyone check out his outfit. And that's where it really jumped out. People were, that's where the Jack Horner name came from. And everyone just started going nuts. It had plenty of comments. Somebody said, let's get this on Google. And I said, look, let's make this happen.
Well, I think we need more of it. Just those little things to add a little more sunshine to the day. Kudos to all of you in Hespeler, and let's hope Hespeler Jack sticks around for quite some time.
Right on.
Andrew, thanks for making time in your day to do this. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Andrew Yablonsky. I knew I was going to boot it at one point. My apologies, Andrew. Andrew Yablonsky is a resident of Hespeler, where the little stone statue, about 2 feet tall, of the person, the object they have named Jack. Hespeler Jack is on the corner of Adam and Rife Streets in the village of Hespeler, part, of course, of the city of Cambridge. And he's become something of a celebrity. He's even got his own recognition now on Google Maps. Not to be confused with Hespeler Johnny, who calls our show from time to time. This is Hespeler Jack Horner, who sits on a corner, Adam and Rife in Hespeler, and he's bringing joy to the neighborhood. Here's to Jack, and let's hope there are more like him around the community to keep us smiling on sometimes days that get us down a little bit. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Moments away from your noon update, the noon news from the 570 News Center. And then the next 60 minutes, well, they are your box of chocolates, Forrest Gump. You never know what you're going to get because we open the phone lines so you can make the call and start the conversation. It can be a reflection on something that we've talked about on the show today, and we've had much to discuss, haven't we? So if you didn't get to weigh in earlier, you can certainly take advantage of that opportunity in the next 60 minutes, or maybe it's something that you think we need to know. I'm always happy to learn more from you. So the Talkback Hour with open lines begins right after this update from the 570 News Center. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage outside, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
It is the Talkback Hour. Phone lines, they open every day when we start the show at 9 a.m. And we don't shut them down until I go home at 1. Don't be too jealous, okay? Go home at 1. Sounds pretty good. Did I tell you what time I got here this morning? That's not the point. I'm going home at 1, but not until I'm done listening to you. I want to hear all of the things. 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Let's start things off with Joe. You're on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Mike. I just wanted to call in about the guy who got nailed with Lyme disease.
Yes.
I've been up at the lake, and I've been nailed about 4 or 5 times in the last 6 years. And each and every time, I either call my family doctor or my private healthcare provider, and it's always the same default. They just default right to, okay, you're going on 14-day horse pills, and that's that. But I get my prescription right away, and I do the regime, whether the tick has the disease or not. And I'm bad for not saving the tick for analysis to even just to provide to the database. But what people have to understand is when you get nailed by a tick, you have to assume that it has it. If you don't, the longer you wait, like this poor gentleman on the firefighter there, the longer you wait, the more serious the complications are of Lyme disease setting in and causing permanent damage. So you got to get on it right away. Like I'm on it. I try to nail a 72-hour window so that I can only take the 1 horse pill, but it never works. They always just default, throw me on the 14-day. Now, my friend up there at the lake, one of our best friends up there, she got Lyme disease, and she didn't know she had a tick, but they treated her right away. So that just sounds very odd to me that this guy had such a hard time with the neurologists and the doctors he was dealing with here, because everybody I know got treatment right away, including myself. But I've never had it because they never let me get it. I always get thrown on the regime. But you got to get on it, people. If you get a tick, you have to call your doctor right away and go on a 14-day horse pill regime. And that's my little tidbit there, and that's my advice for everybody. Thanks.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. And listen, great piece of advice from somebody who's experienced this, and the story that we shared with you directly from the patient, Jason Hibbs, who's from the Drumbo area, just west of here, now in Mexico getting treatment. It's not meant to cast any shade or throw our healthcare system under the bus, if you'll forgive the turn of phrase. It's just somebody's personal journey, and oh my goodness, what an eye-opener it is for the rest of us. And Joe says, hey, you can stay on top of this if you react quickly if you're bitten by a tick. So there you go. We'll do the very best that we can. And obviously, the care is available here, as Joe can attest. All right, we continue Talkback with Grant. Good afternoon, Grant.
Oh, Mike.
Oh, Grant.
It seems like a decade you haven't been around.
It was only 5 days, my friend.
Well, if I was taking over for you on holidays, I would have taken everything on your task home, because you said the beer was up for grabs, so your belongings or whatever is up for grabs, and then I would have kind of played around with your chair.
I don't think that's fair, Grant. Hang on now, because that beer's been in the fridge for way longer than a week.
What?
You think you're going to take my... And what? Okay, well, I guess I didn't leave any of my personal stuff in the studio, just my collection of pens, some important newspaper and books that I have over here.
Yeah, I take those.
Of course you would. Why would you do that to me? Why do you want to be that way?
Just to have a little bit of fun.
Uh-huh. And then I'd come back the next week and I wouldn't know which way is up.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that's hilarious to who?
To me.
I knew it. I know. Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then I would play around with that. You probably have a knob on the back of your chair to make it go up and down. So I would play around with it. So when you sit in it, you go crashing
right down to the floor. You're right about that. I do use the lever on the bottom of my chair to elevate my chair as high as it will go because I am vertically challenged. And so the higher I can sit, the better that I feel. And now you know. Kyle, number 6.
How you doing? How about those Blue Jays?
How about those Blue Jays? How about them?
Oh, my God. Who are the Yankees? I don't even know this team. Like, get out of here. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I would like to go back to the iteration of running having somebody that runs the country like a business here. I totally agree. I think, it's good for the country if we have that. I think there's been a few times where we've had a surplus instead of a deficit, and it feels like people were much happier in this country versus what it was back then. But who ran I think, was it John Chrétien? He had a surplus. And then I watched an interview with John Chrétien. I don't know what news organization it was. And then it was Stephen Harper. I think they interviewed like a month later. And Stephen Harper even said that he was like, we actually got lucky because when we came into power after Chrétien, there was a surplus in the government coming in, and we didn't really have to do much, and it helped us with our transition. So there's nothing wrong with that. So I don't know. It'd be nice to have somebody run it like that, but my hopes are not too high because it just seems like we just like to spend. And if the average person spent like the government does, I think we'd all be bankrupt, because we wouldn't have the leeway that the government does to borrow, right? But yeah, I don't know. I think I have no say on Carney right now because I think it's too early. But ask me in about a year, and maybe I'll have a comment on it. But I still think that it's still way too early on what's going on with him. But I thought it was a good little tidbit there. Thanks, Mike.
All right, Kyle. Thanks, number 6. Good to hear from you. I'm glad you enjoyed the conversation at 11 this morning with Tim Powers, who, by the way, has advised conservative MPs in his past life, now the chair of SUMA Strategies. But Tim made the argument that all of this fuss around Prime Minister Carney's blind trust is really a shame because it could dissuade good people from entering politics just because they are essentially being punished for being successful before they entered politics. It was a pretty good conversation. Glad Kyle enjoyed it. As I said, number 6. We have a running list of listeners, the official Farwell Show listeners list. It started yesterday and it grew beyond my wildest imagination. So if you're on the list already, remember, when you call, add your listener number so we'll keep everybody in order. And if you want to get on the list, well, you know how to do that. Just tell us you want on. 59 listeners and counting on the Mike Farwell Show as Talkback continues. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. The Talkback Hour is your chance every day, noon to 1, to start the conversation. Right back to the phones. Doug, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. Number 14.
Doug, number 14. Good to hear from you, my friend.
Am I allowed to gripe about your company?
Why the hell not? I do every day.
Okay. About 5 years ago, I signed up with a subsidiary of Rogers for my cell phones, and they included a very minimal charge for my home phone. So the last 2 months, I've been getting messages that they're getting rid of the 3G service and going with something different. So I called the number, make my arrangements, and they want $140 to change the box, plus an additional $80 for setup. why am I paying for the same service to be upgraded when they made the changes on their own? Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. I appreciate the call and the question, and I hope you get back through to customer care, because I know one thing for sure about the company that is the parent company of this radio station. They take their customer care very seriously. I don't know how many tales I'm allowed to tell out of school, but I see the emails. I'll just put it to you that way, of how this all works kind of behind the scenes in terms of the work that's done on that side of things with customer service. And I know we take it very seriously. So I hope you can find a solution to your problem that is satisfactory. And I would encourage you to do so. Mark, number 39, good afternoon.
Number 39, the perfect number, Mike, because that's my age.
I love it. That's perfect.
I know you love it. And you know I'm pulling your leg. Anyway, Mike.
I thought you were 39.
I'll stay 39 forever.
Okay,
Mike.
All right.
Do you have a theme for this Friday on the music?
I don't. Do you want to suggest one?
Well, actually, I heard Kerry call in a few weeks ago.
Yes.
And he wanted to do something about all about cars.
Oh,
you know, there's a lot of car songs out there.
I thought he wanted to do. Anyway, okay. I thought he wanted to do.
I wanted to do Alice Cooper. Nothing.
No.
Right?
I thought that Terry suggested female artists. But anyway, okay. So
all cars. Themes to do with cars.
Okay.
Mike.
All right, Mark. Let's do cars on Friday. Why not?
Okay. Can I throw one in there immediately then?
Yes, I'm going to write it down. Go for it.
It's called Mustang Sally.
Oh, yeah, it is.
By Buddy Guy.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, number 39. Good to hear from you.
Okay, man.
That's our buddy Mark. He's already suggesting a theme for our All Request Friday. So there you go. Songs that have cars in them. Mustang Sally is the first request. Something to do with a car. She's real fine. My 409. Pick your Beach Boys. Little Deuce Coupe. You get lots just from the Beach Boys, but I'm sure you'll come up with something. So that's our theme for All Request Friday. Put your thinking caps on, you music lovers, you. Ron, number 32, you're on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Hey, Mike, what do you think of those Jays this time around? How's it doing?
I'm super pumped by the Jays. Super pumped.
Well, you got to get down to the game and check out the Hines area. That's where I was sitting on when the Angels were playing, and it was a beautiful area to go see a game.
I love it. What area did you call it? The Hines area?
It's called the Hines Club. It's I think it's like 352. I think is what it's called.
All right.
And
sounds fancy.
You're down on third. You're down on first base, right on the floor, and you actually see runners coming at you at the nets and everything else. It's a really interesting area to watch the game.
All right, I'll be sure to check it out.
Also, what I was thinking about is that, you know, with all the work you do with Farwell for hire, what would be interesting is if we start, maybe, I don't know if the listeners want to do this, start a writing campaign and get you to throw at the first pitch of a Jays game. But what you do with the cystic fibrosis and everything else, and that's what Jays Care is all about, is like finding community stuff that's driven like that. You're helping the community, so I don't see why we shouldn't try it.
Well, because I would embarrass myself mostly.
Oh, come on. I think you could handle it.
I would bounce the ball into the plate. There's no two ways about it.
Oh, still, it'll be fun to watch you do it.
Ron, I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Okay, have a good one.
You too. Number 32, Ron, thinks I should throw out the first pitch at a Blue Jays game. How about you throw out that pitch? Because you are what makes Farwell for Hire work. If you didn't hire me and you didn't donate, we would not have raised $1.6 million and counting for cystic fibrosis research right here in this community. Let that sink in and then get your pitching arm ready. Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Talkback continues with number 36. Francis, good afternoon, 36.
Good afternoon, my buddy. I think we all need a good laugh, and this is a real quick one.
Okay.
Oh, first of all, are you as smart as a 6-year-old?
No.
Okay, so well, anyways, this is the question.
Okay.
What do you call a monkey in a minefield?
A monkey
in a
minefield. A dancing chimp.
How about a baboon?
Oh my gosh! Now it took me a second, Francis. It took me a second. I got it.
Yeah,
I got it.
You would. God bless.
Thank you, Francis. Oh, God bless you too, and the humor you bring to the show. A baboom, as opposed to a baboon. What do you call a monkey in a minefield? Share it with your friends. That's good, clean humor from Listowel on the show today. Tom, you're on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Hi, Mike. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm looking forward to the new season because all these trades. So,
wait, the new season of what?
Hockey only. Is there anything else? I mean, come on.
Come on, the Blue Jays are in first place, Tom.
It's about time. I was there the last time they won the World Series, so.
Like in the Sky Dome when they won, when it was still called the Sky Dome?
Yeah.
Good.
I was there for a couple of games, and I lived in Toronto at the time.
So you're excited for the Leafs season now?
Yeah, well, the Blue Jays too.
Okay, yeah.
The other thing is, like, I keep reiterating all the time, we have to do something about the fire.
I know, you tell me a lot. We're going to have to fix them.
This is the stupidity. They gave $6 million for 4 years to update whatever, firefighters, everything. $6 million, you can't even buy a fire truck. And they gave $4 billion to Ukraine to kill.
So no more foreign aid, more investment into firefighting here in Canada.
Well, yeah,
okay.
This is the thing. This is you're going to get the more it burns, the less you have.
Listen, Tom, I get it. And speaking of burning, I've heard that we have to get more comfortable with prescribed burning to manage our forests. And I've been following the stories a year later from Jasper, which is still not looking anything like its former self. I want to see the rebuild as well. Talkback continues here on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. Every day between noon and 1, we open up the phone lines so that we can hear directly from you. Maybe you'd like to weigh in. Some reflections on a topic we discussed earlier today on the show, or maybe you want to bring something to the table that you think we need to know about. We're good either way at 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Back to the phones for number 45, Preston Paul. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. How about them Blue Jays?
How about them Blue Jays? It's pretty exciting, eh?
Oh, it is. It's so nice, especially when the weather's nice. You sit out in the back deck and listen to the ball game. I got the game on Sportsnet in my room, and because of the delay, if anything good happens while I'm sitting on the deck listening to it, I can walk right to my bedroom and watch the play, whether it's a home run, a great catch, or whatever it is. But just sitting on the deck, it's just so nice sitting out there and just listening to the ball game. But the Jays have been doing really good. Go for number 12 tonight and stick it to those Yankees. Oh, I would love to be listening to the Yes Network and listening to them call the game.
Remember when they said before the last series that they didn't think the Blue Jays were a first-place team? It was a mirage, right?
Yep.
Yep.
No, I love it. And I requested a song, and I forgot the band's name. It was Deep Purple for Highway Superstar.
Highway Superstar.
Yeah.
Okay, that's your driving song for Friday or your car song?
Yep.
Okay.
You got her.
Got it.
Thanks,
45. Good to hear from you.
You too. Talk to you later.
You bet. That's our buddy Preston Paul on the listener list, number 45. That story about the delay reminds me of years ago. I believe it was World Junior time. Anyway, but this is so long ago. We were still at my beloved's old place in Cambridge, and there was, in the condo, somebody's unit was like half a fraction or two of a second ahead of ours. And so you could hear them cheer before we saw the excitement on our end. But yes, the Blue Jays right now, what a story. Who would have thunk this? Who would have thunk this? that the Blue Jays would be in first place by 4 games over the New York Yankees. And don't you just love watching the Yankees boot the ball all over the place, make errors to give the Blue Jays their lead last night en route to the 4-1 win? Quickly, programming note for you, because we're talking Blue Jays baseball. We do that regularly on this show, Wednesday mornings, 11 a.m. with the Blue Jay Hunter. But even Blue Jay Hunters get time off in the summer. So Ian will not be here tomorrow. We will not have a dedicated spot for Blue Jays baseball. I know, bad timing, right? But don't worry. He'll be back a week after when he's back from vacation. But I just wanted to let you know that. And on that same note, no Blue Jays talk tomorrow, but we have secured our interview with that professor from the University of Waterloo who wrote the op-ed in yesterday's paper about the financial crisis that post-secondary institutions are facing, and suggested that one of the ways to remedy it, essentially as a show of good faith, is that faculty at universities take a pay cut. So we'll talk to him tomorrow at 11 in place of our usual Blue Jays Hunter segment on the show. I think you'll enjoy the conversation regardless. All right, back to the phones on Talkback. Number 33, Afif. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. First of all, yeah, Blue Jays are awesome. They just keep on winning, and I'm happy. There's the one guy. He does like a reaction for Blue Jays games versus Yankees, and he's so upset. He's like, man, Blue Jays keep on winning against me, and I don't know what's going on. I was like, yeah, exactly. Blue Jays are awesome.
Yeah, the Yankees aren't used to this.
Nope. And second of all, if you haven't heard, me and Brock are volunteering for World Cup.
You're volunteering for the World Cup?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, good.
Well, we signed up, because I'm thinking of $2,500 and I want to go, but so I'm like, why not just go and volunteer instead?
There you go.
He suggested, I was like, sweet, that's awesome. So he signed up and I signed up too.
Good job. I hope it works out for you.
Hopefully so. See you, man.
All right, number 33, Afif. Good to hear from you on the show today. JB, good afternoon.
I'm hoping my number's in the top 15.
I got number 60 for you if you want it.
You say 60?
6-0, my friend.
No way.
What do you mean, no way? Listen,
how far back do we go? We're going to do this?
I know. Trust me, I know. But this started randomly yesterday, and I couldn't believe how it took off. So we filled up every spot to number 60. You and I, we go back before I was on this show. I know.
Uh-huh.
But you got number 60, pal. Put us into a new decade here.
All right.
All right, JB, number 60. Oh, I'm going to take this to management when I ask for a new contract.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, I had a question for you.
Yes.
Because I can't remember. A few weeks back, you were talking about the region with the new garbage collection and the new bins and all that.
Yes, sir.
Did they put a site up yet?
Yes, the site is up. I think it's regionofwaterloo.ca/carts, but I could be wrong. But yes, the site's up. Go make your cart selection. Use the cart selection tool. The site is active.
Regionofwaterloo.ca/cart. Okay, cool.
I could be wrong on the site, but if you go to regionofwaterloo.ca, you'll definitely find the info you're looking for.
Thank you, sir.
My pleasure, JB. Thanks for being listener number 60. Don't forget your number.
I mean, okay.
Come on, don't be so bummed out.
Cheers.
Cheers. Good to hear from you. I'm sorry. Listen. It's not a ranking. Everyone, all 60 of you mean the world to us here at the radio station, okay? It just happened. It was spontaneous. We like spontaneity on this show. George, you're on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, Mike. Good to have you back and everything.
Thank you.
Mike, I'm a big Chevy Chase fan. I'm also a big Blackhawk fan. Can I have his number that he had on the jersey on your list?
00?
00.
You know what, George? It's still available. Yes,
you know what? I want to get ahead of Mary. Put me down for 00.
00. Okay, so you're now 00 George, okay?
And also, I'm so glad you had Jason Hibbs on. It's a good awareness point. Everyone should be aware of ticks. Their ticks are very real, and I'm so glad he's getting the treatment that he is.
All right, George. Appreciate hearing from you today. Thanks very much. 00 George, which I guess gives us 61 listeners now. But Anna, who's listener number 43, says her son Elijah listens on their drive in the morning together. So we've got Elijah at 43A, Anna is 43, Elijah's 43A, and Jim Bag said, I'll be listener number 68. Well, we're not there yet, but he's on the list. So I guess that makes 63 altogether. I am taking this to management. Talkback continues. It's the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. You know the numbers, right? I don't need to remind you. What? You mean? Okay, make a good note of these. 519-570-2545. Star 570 by cell. Long distance toll free. 1-800-570-5715. Pro tip for you. If you can't get through on one of the lines, because they often get very busy, just try one of the other ones and you'll sneak in the back door, so to speak. Back to the phones, number 16, Curtis. Good afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
Good, and you?
How you doing, Mike? Yeah, first off, I just want to speak to the Lyme disease thing. So, I've never really been trusting of the government to begin with. I just feel like if something can be hidden, they have every which way they can do things. So I'm just wondering.
But the government, or like this would be the medical community. That's tough.
Yeah, but still, I mean, they're all regulated by the government, right? So. For them, though, I know that in a lot of cases with medications, the doctors basically get some sort of payment when they prescribe certain medications. I wonder if that's what's happening with the Lyme disease thing, because like your one caller that got on it right away, he didn't catch it. So are they just continuing that, even though the one that's in Mexico didn't get on it right away? Wouldn't they treat it differently than just trying to do the regular regimen within a 72 rather than hour radius, rather than, how long the guy in Mexico waited, and hopefully he recovers from that. So I feel like, I think that's really almost a conflict of interest for doctors to make money off of prescribing medications. That's all I have to say about that.
All right.
For your Friday songs, I was wondering, so it's about cars, right?
Yes.
So I was thinking, what if we did Let the Good Times Roll by the Cars or Drive by the Cars?
Oh, man. You're going to make me pick?
Well, yeah, whatever you feel. I feel like Let the Good Times Roll is a little more peppy and maybe appropriate. And it does have roll in it, so maybe that could be, related to driving.
You know what, Curtis? I like to push the envelope a little bit. We'll take it. Let the Good Times Roll by the Cars works for me.
Yeah, okay. That sounds good.
All right, buddy. It's on the list. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, man.
Take care. It's good to hear from you today. Next on Talkback, Christine on line 1. Hi, Christine.
Hey, Mike. How are you?
Great. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad you're back. This is my second time calling in, but I am a religious listener, so I have two things. One,
yes.
Please give me number 61.
Oh, you got it, Christine.
Yeah. And just for Friday's Cars theme, Highway to Hell.
What are you trying to say about the show? I thought you liked it.
I do. But anyways, I just want to say I'm glad you guys had a nice kind of slow start to your vacation. You kind of just relaxed, but glad that you're back.
Thank you very much, and we'll get that song on for you on Friday. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. Highway to Hell for Christine. It's Cars/Road theme for our All Request Friday coming up this week. John is with us on Talkback. Hey, John.
Hi, Mike. How you doing?
Great, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm just fabulous. I two things before I ask for a specific number. I want to talk a little bit about the Lyme disease. I did a fundraiser 15 years ago for a young girl. They lived in Stanley Park area of Kitchener, but I got to know them at a place in Sauble Beach, and it was just horrific what this did to her, and she was misdiagnosed. And at about that time, there was an article came out in the Toronto Star. People can Google it if they're interested in it. But the medical community in Ontario was misdiagnosing it. And in this article in the Toronto Star, I remember there was a clinic in Buffalo, and they said for $800 and some odd dollars, you could go to Buffalo and determine whether or not you had Lyme disease. A few years after that, I was also bitten by a tick. Now, I was luckily that I had Dr. Shaman in Kitchener, and he got me into health sciences in Hamilton, where they diagnosed it, but not in time. I have very little movement in my right four fingers and up to my elbow. The tick actually attacked and destroyed nerves in my right ulnar nerve in near my elbow. But you've got to get it diagnosed properly. But if people are interested in it, that article, you could probably find it somewhere on Google or something in the Toronto Star about the misdiagnosis of Lyme's disease and various tick diseases, and it was in the Toronto Star. But now I would like to, I've been listening and trying to get sort of in line, because I would like number 67, Mike, if that's possible. And the only reason why I'm asking now is because I heard some people calling in and jostling numbers. Now, I've been looking and listening and hoping that I could call in and get on the list, the schedule, when you get to be number 65 or 66, so I could ask for 67. And you know the hockey team I cheer for.
Oh, dear.
So when I call in, I just want that memory of 67 to fall within your brain scan somewhere. And it just, well, you know what I'm trying to do, Mike, with 67.
You know what, I'm gonna put you on the list as John the Jerk, okay?
As long as I get 67, I don't care what you call me, Mike.
Listen, we got to fill 62, 63, 64, 65, and 66. I'll put you down for 67, but no promises that we get there, okay?
Okay, well, I'll be listening, and when you get in that 65, 66 range, I'll call as a reminder.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mike.
Appreciate you, John. You're on the official listeners list as Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Okay, I've got 3 minutes left in the show and 4 phone lines full. Let's see how quickly we can go through them. Jerry, start us off. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. Might be a little optimistic with this request, but could I have number 96?
You're killing me. I'm at 62.
Well, you're going to be at 96. You're going to be into the triple digits. We know that.
I'm going to give you the write-in vote. 96. Okay, 96. Any particular reason why?
Well, actually, it was the number I wore in baseball when I played, and that was the year my son was born.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. He used to tease me and say I picked 96 because 69 was taken, but I said, no, that was the year you were born. But yeah, just touching the Blue Jays, and it's amazing how they've really come to life. And I think a great thing they did, unfortunately for Madeline, was they got a new hitting coach. And I think people are looked at the home runs are down comparatively, but I think they're hitting more to contact. One stat, if I got it correctly, I said what makes them different than everybody else is they've struck out the fewest.
There you go. And I agree with you on the hitting coach. I think it's made a big difference. Number 96, if we ever get there. Uncle Rob, good afternoon.
Farzy, just give you a quick update. The Kitchener kid signed another year with Minnesota Wild, and as Sean Fafaro said, he's going to have a breakout year, and we know Fafaro is never wrong.
Settle down. I saw Matty on the weekend. It was nice to catch up with him. He almost walked right past me like I was invisible to him.
Well, listen, I'm here with my press secretary, Ariel. We're heading off to the Yankee game tonight. So watch the game. We're going to be right behind home plate with my 3 daughters.
Just
looking forward to it.
Make sure you keep your eyes on the game. I saw too many people with their heads in their phones last night.
No phone zone. No
All right.
phone zone.
Thanks, Rob. And I'm looking forward to having Rob on the show tomorrow. Jackie, good afternoon.
Hi, Mike. I just want to quickly say, how can they ask you to number the calls? I mean, there's going to be so many. I'll be any number you want, but I'm pretty sure they're going to be hundreds of thousands.
Thank you, Jax. Your number 62. Remember your number, 62. Rory, 30 seconds left for you.
Mike, I missed my number yesterday. Where am I at?
63 if you want it.
63. I was hoping for number 1, but, I got strong competition with Mary, so starting to question our relationship. But the higher the number, the more listeners. 2 quick things.
Yes.
Yesterday, we talked about how university professors should take a pay cut, all while the Prime Minister and the premiers are whining and dining in posh Muskoka land right now. So put that one up there. And you know, it's interesting with Polyev.
5 seconds, Rory.
Nothing will make him happy. It's funny. His trust will be very low because he's been there for 20 years.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it. Remember your number, 63, and we'll talk about professors taking a pay cut on the show tomorrow at 11 and so much more. I'll be back here tomorrow at 9. I'll talk to you then. Bye for now.